Her tiny body convulsed under hospital lights, monitors screaming as if life itself was slipping away. Doctors reached for drugs, then a young nurse stepped forward and whispered, "Give me 60 seconds." What happened next froze a millionaire father in the doorway. The song she sang wasn't just a lullaby, it was the voice of a wife he thought he'd lost forever. Who was this woman, hidden in plain sight? Who carried storms in silence, yet calmed them with a single note? Stay with this story, because what began as 60 borrowed seconds would soon change 3 lives forever. The heart monitor isn't polite about it. It screams in jagged beeps, a red line twitching like a trapped wire across the screen. Lily Carter's small body goes rigid under the sheet. Her eyes flicker like a light in a storm, breaths fast and shallow. A resident rushes to the drawer, gloves snapping. "Diazepam, now," he says, already reaching for a vial. Then a calm voice cuts through the noise, steady but gentle. "Give me 60 seconds, says Claire Dawson, the night nurse with sleeves rolled to her elbows. The room freezes on that number. The resident hesitates. The attending frowns. The respiratory tech looks at the clock. Claire moves with the care of someone handling glass. She lifts Lily, tucks the IV line with 2 fingers, and gathers the child to her chest. "Hey, Peanut," she whispers into the little ear. "You're safe. I've got you." The beeps keep spiking, relentless. Claire sways, tiny half-moons with her shoes, like rocking on a porch that isn't there. She hums first, testing the room's edges. Then she gives the song words soft, low, braided with breath. "You are my sunshine," she sings, barely more than air, my only sunshine. The attending's jaw sets like granite, but he lets the minute run. The resident hovers with the syringe, unsure whether to push forward or back away. Lily's fists loosen by inches, like thawed snow. Her cheek settles against Claire's shoulder, a damp patch of hair clinging to green scrubs. At the doorway, a figure stops as if he's hit glass. Ethan Carter doesn't step in. He can't. He knows that melody like the smell of his old house. It came from a woman with a paint-stained sweatshirt and a laugh that used to fill empty halls. That woman isn't here anymore. But the lullaby is, and it's coming from someone else's throat. He grips the metal doorframe. A faint tremor runs down his forearm to his wedding band he still hasn't taken off. Inside the room, Claire adjusts her hold and keeps singing. No big gestures, no heroics, just a steady rhythm, a human metronome. The beeps answer her in kinder tones. Not flat, not normal yet, but no longer trying to climb a cliff. "Good job, Lily." Claire breathes, smile small, eyes focused. "You and me. Keep riding the wave." The resident glances at the attending, who nods once. "Prep a lower dose," he murmurs, and wait. Ethan studies the nurse, who has his child in her arms. He notices the neat braid, the tired circles, the pen tucked behind her ear like a small flag. He also notices she doesn't once look toward the door for approval. Every ounce of her attention belongs to Lily. The 60 seconds pass, then 90. 120 feels like a prayer answered in installments. Lily's muscles soften into the kind of weight only children have. Her lashes flutter, then settle. Claire kisses 2 fingers and taps them gently to the back of Lily's hand. "All right, sunshine girl," she whispers. "Let's put you back." She lowers the child to the mattress without tugging the wires. The blanket comes up. The stuffed rabbit comes closer. The pillow is fluffed. The attending steps in, checks the numbers, and clears his throat. "Good catch. Dawson," he says, like the words cost him money. Claire nods but doesn't bask. "Can we dim the lights a notch?" she asks. She does better without glare. A tech slides the switch until the room holds its breath. Fluorescents give way to a soft green wash. Ethan finally exhales. He realizes he's been standing there so long his fingers are numb. Claire glances up and sees him. The recognition is instant. The reaction is professional. "Mr. Carter," she says, voice clean and warm. She's stable. That was a hard wave, but she came down. He takes one step into the room and stops near the curtain. "Where did you learn that song?" he asks. Not sure if he wants the answer. Claire tucks a stray curl behind Lily's ear. "Childhood," she says, "and a few long nights with kids who needed a rhythm more than a needle." He studies her. A man used to evaluating risk and return. "What if the song hadn't worked?" he asks. "Then we'd have done the medicine," she replies. Not defensive, simply factual. But we try the gentlest thing first. The attending signs something on the chart and slips out. The resident follows, shoulders lower than when he came in. Ethan steps closer and looks down at his daughter. "Thank you," he says, each syllable scraping the rust off his voice. Claire gives a nod that isn't humble or proud, just present. She likes patterns. She says, routines. Holding and rocking are patterns you can feel, even when your brain fires wrong. He watches Lily's chest rise and fall, as if it's the first time he's seen breathing. She hasn't liked to be held much since he stops the sentence before it breaks. Claire doesn't fill the quiet. She loosens the cuff, checks the O2 line, and lets silence do its work. He clears his throat. "What's your name?" he asks, as if it matters to the way air works. "Claire," she answers. "Claire Dawson. You can call me Claire." "Ethan," he says, offering a hand, then pulling it back, then managing a small, awkward shake. His palm is warm, his grip careful, like he's afraid everything might shatter if he squeezes too hard. Claire glances at the clock, then at the chart. She'll probably sleep for a bit, if she startles. Hold her hand and hum anything steady. Ethan nods like he's taking a boardroom directive. Can I stay?" he asks. Ridiculous question and all. "It helps," Claire says. "Kids keep count of who leaves." Her eyes flick to him, a quick, human flash. "So do parents." He sits. Finally. In the blue chair no one chooses, unless they're exhausted. He leans forward, elbows on knees, and watches his daughter the way a person watches the ocean after almost drowning. Claire steps back toward the sink and washes her hands. Movements economical. She dries them on a towel and looks back one more time. Ethan finds the courage to ask the thing that's clawing his chest. "How did you know she'd respond to that song?" "I didn't," Claire says, "but I knew she'd respond to a voice that doesn't panic." She tucks the pen behind her ear again. "Kids borrow our breathing." He nods, throat tight. "Mine's been broken for a while," he admits, surprised at the confession. She doesn't try to fix it. "Then we give her yours when you're ready," she says. "And mine until then." The hallway murmurs with other lives. A cart rattles past. A printer whirs. Somebody laughs too loudly and gets shushed. Claire dims the monitor volume to a polite whisper. "Try this," she says, and hums a simple line. Not the lullaby, just a heartbeat made of sound. Ethan matches it. Clumsy at first, then closer. The chair creaks as he leans nearer to Lily and lets the note hold. Claire watches long enough to see the rhythm take. Then she steps out. Not far, just to the threshold, giving father and daughter a room that belongs to them. In the corridor, she writes a concise note on the chart. Seizure duration decreased with tactile soothing and soft vocalization. Observe for sensory triggers. Encourage familiar melodies. She caps the pen and looks back through the window. Ethan is still humming. A man relearning a language he used to speak fluently. Claire allows herself a single breath that almost looks like a smile. The line on the monitor flows like a river after rain. A voice calls from 2 rooms down. "Claire, We need you in 412. She answers on the move. But her eyes touch the glass one more time before the corner swallows her steps. Inside 410, the lullaby isn't just a song anymore. It's a memory rebuilt with new lumber, held together by two quiet voices that refuse to break. Ethan does not look at the empty space where his wife used to stand. He looks at Lily, and then at the doorway, and files away a name, Claire Dawson. He doesn't know what to do with the information yet. He only knows the storm eased when she entered, and the room learned how to breathe again. The second hand on the wall clock clicks forward. No one cheers, no one claps. But in this small square of night, a parent believes in morning. The rain had already stopped by dawn, but the streets of Portland still smelled of wet asphalt and old leaves. Claire Dawson adjusted the strap of her faded backpack, her scrubs hidden under a thrift store coat 2 sizes too big. The bus was late again. She balanced a paper cup of coffee in one hand, her schedule for the day ticking like a metronome in her head. Night shift done, class at noon, a side shift at the motel by 6. When the bus finally came, it was crammed with silence. People scrolling phones, staring out windows, pretending not to see each other. Claire sat in the back, sipped her coffee, and closed her eyes just long enough to feel the sting of fatigue. She whispered to herself, "One more day. Dawson. Just one more." By the time she reached the hospital, the clouds had parted into a gray stretch. She crossed the intersection on autopilot, her thoughts already on patient charts. That's when the SUV came too fast, taking the yellow light like it had a grudge. The bumper clipped her bag, spinning her sideways. The coffee hit the pavement first, splattering brown across the crosswalk. Her knees scraped concrete, pain sharp and immediate. Drivers honked. One man in a suit glanced at her from the sidewalk, then kept walking. Claire exhaled, shaky but steady. "Not today," she muttered, pushing herself up. Her palms stung, but she brushed the grit off and limped forward. The bus driver waiting at the curb called out, "You okay, miss?" "I'm fine," she said, though her leg burned. Always fine, always moving. By the time she clocked in, the scrape had already stiffened under her scrub pants. She kept her smile tight, her steps even, refusing to limp in front of colleagues. The pediatric wing buzzed with the sounds of morning. IV pumps beeped. Tiny voices cried. The smell of antiseptic coated the air. Claire slipped into routine, checking vitals, adjusting blankets, narrating each step for children who needed a voice steady enough to borrow. But every time she knelt, a hiss of pain sneaked out between her teeth. She thought no one noticed. Hours later, she dragged herself to the break room. The fluorescent hum was the only witness as she opened her locker. She froze. Inside, resting on her folded jacket, was a small clear bag, a roll of compression wrap, 2 packets of medicated plasters, a tube of anti-inflammatory gel, and taped to the side, a scrap of paper torn from a notepad, in neat, careful handwriting. "Take care. Someone's watching." Her breath caught. She glanced around the empty room, expecting someone to step out, laughing. No one did. The clock ticked. The hum stayed steady. Claire touched the note, fingertips lingering on the ink. A quiet warmth spread in her chest, confused but undeniable. She slipped the supplies into her bag, the note into her pocket. Her lips shaped a smile, the kind no one else would see. Later, in the hallway, a colleague joked about her limp. "Rough night out, Dawson?" "Tripped on air," she answered lightly, keeping the truth tucked away. The note pressed against her pocket like a secret heartbeat. That night, she sat in her small apartment, balancing textbooks on dosage tables. The lamp buzzed, shadows pooling across cracked walls. Her body begged for rest. But her mind replayed the moment at the locker. Who had seen, who had cared enough to leave the supplies? She opened her fridge, half a carton of milk, 3 eggs, a jar of mustard. She shut it and laughed quietly. Guess it's cereal again. Across the city, Ethan Carter sat in a leather chair by Lily's bedside. The glow of the monitor painted him in pale green. He thought about the nurse who had carried his daughter through a storm with nothing but a song, and about the way she winced when she bent her knees. He hadn't left the note for recognition. He hadn't expected her to know. It was simply something he could do. One gesture to acknowledge a pain she wouldn't name. Still, when he pictured her opening the locker, a strange echo stirred in his chest. Kindness given without face had a way of circling back. The next morning, the pediatric wing was restless. Lily had refused breakfast, curled into herself like a question mark. Claire crouched to meet her eye level. Not hungry, that's okay. Let's try a lavender cloth instead. She dabbed Lily's wrist with a soft scent, narrating every step. There's the sleepy smell. See, just for you. When Lily's stuffed rabbit tumbled under the bed, Claire slid down to retrieve it. Her niece screamed in protest, a quiet hiss escaping her lips. She surfaced with the rabbit in hand and a strained smile. Rescued, she announced softly. At the doorway, Ethan stood, arms crossed. He had caught the hiss, the flinch, the way she brushed it off. He said nothing, just watched as Claire tucked the rabbit under Lily's arm and smoothed the blanket. His jaw tightened. He turned and walked away before she could look up. By the end of her shift, Claire's body felt like stone, but she stayed until Lily's breathing evened, until the monitors stopped shouting. In the break room, she slumped against the locker door. Her reflection in the metal looked like a ghost of herself. She reached into her bag and found the note again. The words were simple, but they felt heavier than textbooks, steadier than pills. Take care. Someone's watching. She whispered it aloud, testing how it sounded in her voice. For the first time in months, the phrase didn't feel like a warning. It felt like permission to rest. She folded the note, tucked it back into her pocket, and closed her eyes. Tomorrow would come early. But tonight, she let the words stay with her. In the children's wing, Ethan leaned closer to his daughter. He hummed not the sunshine song, but a simple pattern Claire had shown him. His voice was rusty, uneven, but Lily's breathing matched the sound. He didn't know if Claire heard from down the hall, but if she did, he hoped she knew someone was watching her. 2. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon, sharp as a gavel. Claire Dawson to administration. Immediately, she wiped her hands on a paper towel, pulse quickening. Colleagues glanced her way, sympathy already in their eyes. In the office, the blinds were half drawn. A senior administrator sat stiffly, a file open in front of her. Dr. Holloway, the attending, folded his hands. The blood samples from Lily Carter's panel last week never reached the lab. Claire blinked. I placed them in the transport box myself. I double-checked the forms. The administrator's tone was clipped. Documentation says otherwise. You were the last in the chain. Her chest went cold. That was the night she seized. I rushed straight back. That may be. Holloway interrupted. But the fact remains. Until this is resolved, you are suspended. The word hit like a door slamming. Suspended. Claire opened her mouth, but only managed to whisper, Please. I didn't misplace anything. The administrator slid the folder shut. You'll be notified once the investigation concludes. Outside the office, the hallway blurred. She pressed a palm against the wall to steady herself. Every footstep back to the locker room felt like walking into water. When she shut the metal door, her knees buckled. Her badge hung heavy on the lanyard. She pulled it off, tucked it into her bag, and sat in silence. Across the wing, Ethan Carter stood at the nurse's station. He noticed a different nurse by his daughter's side. "Where's Claire?" he asked. The young tech hesitated. "Shift change, or maybe not." "What do you mean?" Ethan's voice sharpened. The tech leaned closer. "There's talk about missing samples. They might suspend her." Ethan's jaw locked. He remembered that night vividly. Claire had barely left Lily's side. He stepped into the corridor, pulled out his phone, and dialed. "This is Ethan Carter. I want access to last week's surveillance from Wing 4. Every angle." The head of security stammered. "Mr. Carter, hospital footage is restricted." "Then restrict it to me," Ethan snapped. "Tonight." Hours later, he sat in a dim office, a cup of untouched coffee cooling at his elbow. The monitors flickered through timestamps. He rewound, paused, zoomed. 6:42 p.m. There she was. Claire, ponytail tucked low, placing the sealed box in a lab tech's hands. The tech signed, then walked away. The proof was undeniable. The error wasn't hers. Ethan leaned back, exhaled a sound between relief and fury. He pressed a finger to his temple, then dialed another number. "Dr. Holloway," he said when the line picked up. "Review your footage." Claire Dawson followed protocol. "Reinstate her now." A pause. "Mr. Carter, it's complicated." "No," Ethan cut in, voice hard as steel. "It's clear, and if this isn't corrected, you'll be explaining negligence to the board." The silence on the other end stretched, then snapped. "We'll handle it immediately." The next morning, Claire sat at her kitchen table, staring at bills. The pile grew taller each week, and her hands shook as she calculated. Her phone buzzed. A message. "Report to administration. Matter resolved." Her breath caught. She slipped on her coat and rushed back to the hospital, nerves prickling under her skin. In the office, the administrator's tone was different now. "We reviewed the footage. It shows you handed the samples to a lab tech at 6:42. Claire swallowed. "I told you that." The error was his. "Your record is cleared." The words sounded like an apology disguised as formality. Claire nodded, shoulders tight. "Who requested the footage?" The administrator hesitated. "Mr. Carter?" Her lips parted, but no words came. She turned, heart pounding, and walked out. When she stepped back into Lily's room, the little girl lit up. Arms stretched toward her as if nothing else mattered. Claire bent to hug her, the tension easing in that small embrace. "Miss me?" "Sunshine," she whispered. From the window, Ethan watched quietly, dark circles under his eyes, but relief softening his features. Claire stood, met his gaze. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," he said softly. "But you didn't deserve what happened." Her throat tightened. "Why help me?" Ethan's eyes shifted to Lily, then back. "Because someone needed to." For a long beat, neither moved. The monitor beeped steadily, a metronome for something unspoken. Finally, Claire glanced at the chart in her hands. "Well, thank you," she said, voice steady but low. Ethan nodded once, but the look he gave her said more than the words ever could. That night, Claire sat in the break room, the hum of the vending machine filling the silence. She pulled a folded slip of paper from her pocket. On the back of a supply sheet, she wrote in careful letters, "Maybe not everyone sees me as a shadow." She tucked it into her locker, hidden between textbooks. No one else would know. But the words meant something. They meant she wasn't invisible anymore. Down the hall, Ethan leaned against the wall outside Lily's room. He closed his eyes, remembering Claire's calm voice against chaos. He hadn't planned to intervene, not like this. But sometimes silence needed breaking, and sometimes The quietest defense carried the loudest weight. The posters appeared first. Bright colors taped to every wall in the pediatric wing. Annual Children's Gala, an evening of hope. Smiling teddy bears and silver stars surrounded the text. Nurses whispered in the break room. Silent auction this year. I heard the mayor's coming. Someone turned to Claire. You got a date for the gala? She laughed softly. Eyes on her chart. No dress, no time, no chance. Truth was, the thought of polished floors and champagne glasses made her stomach knot. She belonged in scrubs, not gowns. That evening, she stayed late to organize Lily's meds. The hallway had emptied, lights buzzing low. As she reached for her coat, she stopped. Ethan Carter stood by the door, a long rectangular box in his hands. He looked like he'd been rehearsing, then second-guessing every line. Claire, he said, voice a little too formal. I know this is last minute. She raised an eyebrow. I didn't expect to see you here. He nodded once, swallowing. I heard you weren't planning to attend the gala. That's right, she replied. Her tone was even, but her pulse ticked faster. Ethan glanced at the box, then back at her. If you change your mind, maybe this could help. He held it out, hesitant. It's simple, nothing flashy. I just thought it might suit you. Claire hesitated, fingers brushing his as she took it. The warmth startled her more than the gift. I don't want you to feel pressured, Ethan added quickly. Just think about it. He gave a small nod, turned, and walked down the hall, leaving her alone with the box. Back home, she sat on the edge of her bed, staring at it. Her tiny apartment was quiet except for the hum of the fridge. She untied the navy ribbon, lifted the lid. Inside was an emerald satin dress, folded in white tissue. Elegant but understated. Not sequins, not glitter, just grace stitched into fabric. She held it up against herself, eyes catching the reflection in her mirror. It fit as though it had been made for her. Then she noticed the card tucked in the corner. In careful handwriting, she never got to wear it. Maybe now is the right time. Her breath hitched. The dress wasn't new. It had belonged to Ethan's late wife. Suddenly, the perfect fit felt like stepping into a shadow. The ballroom shimmered under chandeliers. Golden light spilled across tables dressed in linen and silverware. Claire stepped inside, emerald gown brushing the marble floor. Every head seemed to turn, eyes weighing, measuring. Compliments floated her way. You look beautiful. Didn't even recognize you. She smiled, polite. But each word felt like it belonged to someone else. She wasn't used to being seen this way, near the refreshment table. Whispers drifted through the air. Low voices, sharp enough to cut. Isn't that the dress, yes, from his wife? Their anniversary gift? He gave it to the nurse. That's bold. A little sad, isn't it? Claire's grip tightened on her clutch. The voices blurred together. She looks good, sure, but it feels like replacement. Standing in for a ghost. The room didn't hush, but something inside her did. She turned away, chest tightening, vision stinging. The laughter, the music, the crystal glasses, none of it mattered anymore. She needed air. Her heels echoed down the hallway as she slipped out. No goodbyes, no excuses. Back in her apartment, she didn't take off the gown. She stood in front of the mirror, staring at a stranger in emerald. Her reflection whispered what the voices already said. You weren't chosen for yourself. You just fit a space someone else left behind. Her throat tightened, anger flickering beneath guilt. Anger for believing she belonged in that ballroom at all. She unzipped the dress slowly, folded it back into the box. Her fingers lingered on the card, the words heavy now. She slid the box beneath her bed, out of sight. the glow of chandeliers replaced by shadows on peeling wallpaper. Her phone buzzed with a message from Ethan. "Thank you for coming tonight." She typed back, "Thank you for the invitation," and left it at that. At the hospital the next morning, she requested a reassignment. Her voice calm, her hands steady. "No explanation," the charge nurse asked. "Just a change of pace," Claire replied. From then on, she avoided Ethan's path. Charts, meds, routines, those were safe. But every time she passed Lily's room, her chest tightened. She missed the small laugh, the way the little girl reached for her. Still, she stayed away. The echo of whispered words was louder than her own heartbeat. Ethan noticed the distance. He asked once, quietly, but Claire deflected, so he kept his silence. But his eyes followed when she left a hallway, when she slipped through a door at night. He sat awake, staring at the emerald dress folded in memory, regretting the gift, but not the intention. He had wanted to give her something beautiful. Instead, he had given her a ghost. Then, one cold evening, fireworks cracked in the distance. The world outside celebrated a new year. Inside, the pediatric wing was quiet until alarms erupted. Room 410. Lily. Claire dropped her coat mid-step. Her body moved before her mind did. By the time she reached the room, chaos had already taken hold. Monitors screamed. Lily's body arched, trembling uncontrollably. The night doctor barked orders, syringe in hand. Ethan stood frozen in the corner, hands clenched, face pale. Then he saw her. Claire, rushing past the curtain, straight to the bed. "No one else touches her," she said firmly. "I've got her." She climbed onto the bed, careful with the wires, and pulled Lily into her arms. Her voice cracked, but the words came steady. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." The song wrapped around the room like a shield. The tremors slowed. Breathing steadied, hitching through soft sobs. Lily's tiny hand clutched Claire's scrub top. Her forehead pressed against the nurse's collarbone. The alarms dulled, monitors settling into rhythm. The storm passed, and Ethan collapsed to the floor. Tears slipped through his hands as he whispered, "I thought I lost her." Claire rocked the child gently. "You didn't?" she said, her own eyes shining. "She's still here." The room emptied slowly after the storm. Machines calmed, nurses filed out, and the air tasted of antiseptic and relief. Claire still held Lily against her chest, rocking gently, the lullaby fading into silence. Her scrub top was damp from tears that weren't all the child's. Ethan sat against the wall, legs folded awkwardly, face buried in his hands. When he finally looked up, his eyes were raw, voice breaking. "I've never been that afraid," he whispered. "Not even when they told me my wife wouldn't make it." Claire lowered herself beside him, still cradling Lily. She didn't speak. Her presence was answer enough. Ethan's gaze found hers, desperate but steady. "What you did? It wasn't just medicine. It was love." Her throat tightened. "I did what she needed." He shook his head. "No, you did what we needed." Silence stretched, filled only by the steady monitor. Then Ethan's voice dropped to something close to confession. "I gave you that dress, not because I wanted to replace anyone." His hand trembled as he ran it across his knee. Claire's breath caught. "Then why?" "Because she asked me to." The words fell like glass breaking softly. Claire stared. "I don't understand." Ethan reached into his wallet, pulled out a folded piece of worn paper. "She left this note before she went into surgery. I never showed it to anyone." He handed it over, his eyes glistening. On the faded page, in looping handwriting, "If I don't come home, don't lock yourself away. Give Lily someone who can sing to her when I can't. And give her the emerald dress. She deserves to wear something beautiful again. Claire's hands shook. Her eyes blurred until she couldn't tell the ink from her own tears. I thought I was walking in someone else's shadow, she whispered. But all along, it was her blessing. Ethan's voice broke. She trusted me to know when it was time. And when you sang that night, I knew. The words hit her like a tide. Not to replace, but to continue. Not a ghost, but a gift. Lily stirred softly in her arms, murmuring through half-sleep. Sun, shine. Ethan's head snapped toward her. Claire gasped, hugging the child closer. It was the first word Lily had spoken in nearly 2 years. Not perfect, not loud, but alive. Ethan covered his mouth, tears streaming freely. She spoke. She spoke. Claire kissed the top of Lily's head, voice trembling. She chose the word herself. In that instant, the ballroom whispers, the shadows of doubt, the ache of guilt, all of it shattered beneath a single fragile syllable. Weeks later, construction sounds filled the back corner of Carter Books. Stacks of lumber, paint cans, and shelves waiting to be filled. Claire brushed sawdust from her hands, laughing softly. Never thought I'd be building furniture in scrubs. Ethan hammered the last nail into place. You're better at it than half the contractors I hire. They stepped back together, surveying the small room. Sunlight pooled across rugs, shelves low enough for children to reach. Above the doorway, a wooden sign read, "The Sunshine Room," carved by hand, polished with care. It feels safe, Ethan said, almost to himself, like a place where fear has to stop at the door. Claire smiled, writing titles on a stack of picture books. Then it's exactly what it should be. That Thursday, no ribbon was cut, no cameras flashed. Only Lily toddled into the room, wide-eyed, fingers brushing the arm of a soft chair. She picked a book with a yellow cover, carried it to Claire, and climbed into her lap. Claire opened the book, voice steady. Shall we read? Sunshine. Lily nodded. Then she spoke again, clearer this time. Sunshine. Ethan froze in the doorway, tears filling his eyes. He didn't move closer, he just let the sound wash through him. That night, in a quiet bistro tucked on a side street, Claire and Ethan sat across from each other. No gala gowns, no chandeliers, just the smell of rosemary and bread. Claire wore a simple sweater, hair loose around her shoulders. Ethan's shirt was wrinkled, sleeves rolled up, the way men look when they've stopped performing. He tapped his fingers nervously against his glass. It took me too long to ask you here. Claire tilted her head. And now I know I don't need the perfect reason. His smile reached his eyes for the first time in years. Claire's voice softened. You make me feel like I can stay. He stood slowly, reached across the small table, and offered his hand. Not as a savior, not as a CEO, just as a man. She took it without hesitation. Her heart steadied, her choice clear. The kiss that followed wasn't hurried or grand. It was quiet, like two people learning to breathe again. Life didn't become perfect overnight. The hospital still called, bills still came, and Lily still needed checkups. But perfection was never the goal. Healing was, and healing had begun with a song, a dress, and a word whispered by a child. Sunshine. In that single word lived memory and promise, grief and grace, a mother's blessing, a father's hope, and a nurse's quiet courage. Not an ending, but a beginning. A reminder that love isn't about replacing, it's about continuing. And sometimes, the quietest voices carry the loudest truth. Thank you for staying with us through this story of love, loss, and healing. If it touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe so you never miss the next chapter. Your support helps us keep telling stories that remind us we're never alone. From our hearts to yours, take care, stay kind, and may your days be filled with a little more sunshine.